This is the Virata podcast. In this episode, Luis Garrido is back and he's going to talk about William Blake.
Alô Brasil! Jai Shimatas! So welcome to our Virata podcast. We are here again with the legend of Sahaja Yoga, Luis Garrido. How are you, Luis?
Very well, thanks. I'm delighted to be invited a second time. It's very kind of you.
Well, thank you so much for taking part in this program because it's also a special occasion. We are in November and that's the birthday of William Blake. And I know that you have a special relation with William Blake, right?
Yes, I believe that everything that happened about William Blake and us, this was everything inspired by Sri Mataji. So it started at the beginning. For instance, in the case of my wife, Carol, Sri Mataji advised her to worship Sri Mahavira. When Sri Mataji says that, worship Mahavira, we know in Sahaja it means to worship Sri Mataji, not Sri Mahavira. It's to worship her, but in her form of Sri Mahavira. And so that was very important for her, Sri Mataji said to her. And she also explained that Sri Mahavira is the same person as William Blake. These are the same principle of Sri Bhairava. So it had to be important for us for that reason alone. But for me it was the same. I also had a very weak left side, very caught up on the left side. And for me it was basically the same treatment because we had the same problem, both of us. And in my case, Sri Mataji even mentioned Sri Mahakali as well for me, important for me, which is the same principle again, is the left side. And she encouraged me by saying, even Vasco da Gama, he showed a lot of respect for Sri Mahakali because when he was a Portuguese navigator, they say that he found the maritime route to India. I think the Indians knew that very well, but he was the first Portuguese person to come with those boats and find that route by sea, and he landed in South India. This is what Sri Mataji told me, and he saw all those statues of Sri Mahakali there, and he assumed this must be the Virgin Mary. For him, who else can it be? It's the Virgin Mary. So he felt a bit shocked. These are the best Christians in the whole world. They have so many statues of the Virgin Mary. How can this be, So he wrote back to the king in Portugal saying, change of plan. We cannot have a war with the Indians because they are the greatest Christians. All you can do is some trade. So that's how that was his understanding that Sri Mahakali is the same as the Virgin Mary. For that, he was a good, at least on that aspect, he was a good person that he didn't start wars with the Indians, But so we had been encouraged by Mother to take care of that side. So William Blake for us had to be important. William Blake already was very important to me before Sahaja Yoga as well. And I felt that he helped me a lot during those 2 years before Sahaja Yoga.
So you were also reading his poems before Sahaja?
I was trying to, but my English was very poor. I was mostly looking at the pictures and trying to read. I had to take English lessons at the time. But even with a few English lessons, it helped, but still not good enough because it's quite difficult to read. For me, at least, it's quite difficult to read and to understand William Blake. But I liked it a lot. It must have been helping me. Even looking at the pictures, looking at the books, those things were helping me. Looking at Mother's photo, because I was looking at Mother's photo on a window shop, that must have helped a lot. So I only discovered that later. When I first saw Sri Mataji, I remember saying, thank you, Mr. William Blake, because it allowed me to be a bit closer to Sri Mataji and to translate and to talk to her. And so Sri Mataji has explained that because it's Bhairava, what happens is that when you are in front of Bhairava, most people are afraid to lie. And remember that when I first Sri Mataji, I could not lie. It was a different thing I had never seen before. But I was in front of her. I had mentioned William Blake, not knowing that is Bhairava, of course. And suddenly I felt, this is strange, I can't lie. I have to say the truth, And that was a strange experience for me, because I was training to be a lawyer, and it's all about you just say whatever suits, whatever is the best argument for your case, and that's it. But in front of mother, I couldn't do that. I believe that was a part of that Bhairava effect. Was happening already. So William Blake and Bhairava or Sri Mahakali were important for us because we needed to improve our left sides.
And so you also decided to write about William Blake now, William Blake and Sahaja Yoga. What inspired you to do that?
Well, you see, that was such a long process. I had to have a lot of help from Sri Mataji, even a lot of help from Carol. That's great support to be able to do it because I felt I couldn't do it. Initially, Sri Mataji told me to write about Sahaja Yoga, not about William Blake. But I didn't know what to write, and I felt I cannot do it. What am I going to write? And in the end, we decided that I'm going to write a newsletter from Portugal. So I wrote a newsletter about Portugal, but because I didn't have much to say, there were not that many news in Portugal since Mother had left, and I had to write something about Sahaja Yoga. So
was it in English or in Portuguese?
No, in English for Mother, because I was writing for Sri Mataji.
Okay.
It's told me to write, so I was writing for, a letter for her, a newsletter. And so I put some, from my book, I cut 2 little paintings of William Blake and I stuck them to the newsletter and wrote a little bit about William Blake on that newsletter. So when I came to London, I was waiting for an opportunity to see Sri Mataji, hoping, of course, there might be a public program or something, So then a message came that those who are free, if they want, come and see Sri Mataji, go to her house. There's a few little things you can help there if you want. Of course, I wanted. I went straight away. When I arrived there, I couldn't believe it. On Mother's coffee table, there was that newsletter that I had sent about 6 months ago. So I said, Mother, that's the newsletter I sent. And she said, yes, I know. I was reading it today again. She said, I like these things. You put those paintings there of William Blake. I like that very much. And you wrote a little bit about William Blake. That's very nice. I enjoyed that, And then she said, I even keep this newsletter on top of that cupboard there, so I can see it because it helps me to remember you, people there in Portugal. I like to have something about Portugal here too, so I keep my attention on you to help you. And I felt, my goodness, these little paintings of William Blake, Mother liked it,
So at that time you didn't know that Sri Mataji liked the paints of William Blake, right?
No, I knew. In fact,
you knew.
I discovered that from day one,
Okay.
because the other Portuguese Sahaja yogis, in their bedrooms, they had big posters of William Blake.
Wow.
So I couldn't believe it. Oh my goodness, what is William Blake doing here? I thought this is Sahaja Yoga. Oh, he's part of this. Oh my goodness, it looks like I joined the right club. It even brings you William Blake as well, Yes, they told me William Blake is part of this Sahaja Yoga. Oh, fantastic, So since he's part of it, that's why I put those little paintings of William Blake.
Wow.
But Mother didn't tell me to write about William Blake. She told me to write about Sahaja Yoga. So later on, this was a long process for me because I didn't feel I could write about William Blake. I used to feel I can't even write about Sahaja Yoga, nothing really. So there was a situation I was in the middle of quite a serious legal problem because I was trying to avoid the military service. Sri Mataji advised me at that time to continue university studies because that's one way of delaying. And whilst I do the university studies again, my passport may be approved. It may take a year or a year and a half even to get a British passport. So I needed to do that course, And I went to the interview. I was offered the place, And then I disagreed with the price. I thought it was the teacher was discriminating against me and charging me double the fee because I'm from Portugal. But this is EU also. Portugal is part of the EU. So this is discrimination. So I told him to lower the price and give me half price like he does to all the English. He said, no way, you are a foreigner. You have a Portuguese passport. Oh, but Portugal is part of the EU. This is discrimination, So I did something stupid. I sued him. I took him to court, And of course, then he threw me out of the course because I sued him. It was free to take people to court on the grounds of European law in those days. In England, there was legal aid for doing that. So I had nothing to lose. It's free. So, but this is, I had been through a revolution in Portugal, so my understanding of things was quite radical in those days. So I know the teacher is breaking the law. It does not respect the law, I'll take him to court, He's discriminating. And then I got thrown out of the court, so I have a legal problem again. What about my military service? Back to square one. So I felt I can't solve this now. I've really blew this one, So I went to ask Mother for help. And Mother said, yes, look at this, the things you people do, How am I going to solve this now? It's amazing, And then on top you want me to solve it, isn't it? Yes, Mother, if you could possibly, any idea, any solution. Mother thought about it and she said, yes, there's a solution. You could write a nice letter. Do you know how to write a nice letter? That's not my specialty, really. So Shimataji dictated a letter, for me to write. Mm-hmm. So I memorized the letter and then I wrote it. And then she said, I think, let Carol, whatever you write from what you remember, I said, ask Carol to rewrite it again. It needs a certain maternal touch or feminine touch, in case I start writing legal arguments that we are breaking the law or something. So Mother's idea was that I said to Mother, this man is horrible. It's like a stone of bricks, It's like a stone, no heart. And Mother said to me, it's not quite like that because there's always a heart under the stone. If you know how to find that heart under the stone, if you know how to speak nicely to that person and open his heart, you may even get your result. So we wrote that letter inspired, dictated by Mother from whatever I could remember. And he gave us back the place in university. He gave me back my place at university at the English prize as well. So we got I won the case, so to say. But Mother had to come and show me how it's done, So this was Mother showing me that I can write, because after Mother dictated me what to say, you go back home, you forget almost everything. How do I do it? It's like an inspiration. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Mother was giving me a great lesson there on how to write. Mm-hmm. On another occasion, this was one day I received an invitation from Mother to go to a place, and it was that day. It was Good Friday. Now, Good Friday is the day of crucifixion of Christ. It's quite a hard day, for people, for everybody, even for Mother. Mother was not the usual. Person. She was a bit, maybe sad, you could say, or a bit more solemn, or a bit more respect. It was quite a different occasion. Now, the person didn't give me the correct message. He told me to come if I was free, which I was, of course, and Mother had asked me to come to write down a letter that she was going to dictate for the newspapers. So Mataji was in meditation, closing her eyes, and then waking up, saying a few things, And you didn't know for sure if Mother is awake or in meditation, or it was a very different atmosphere. And then suddenly, she started, talking, fantastic talk, about Christ and about everything. And then she spoke for about half an hour, and then she said, Luis, can you read to me the last 2 paragraphs? I said, I don't even have pen and a paper here. I didn't know. And I said, but I told him to tell you that it was to write down a letter for the newspapers. Oh, he forgot. He never told me that part. He just told me to come. So, I said, doesn't matter. You can write it all. Just write it all again. But halfway through this, another senior Sahaja yogi, very senior, also came into the room. So I had some help there. So the 2 of us, we managed to write down everything Mother said again. And so we felt, my goodness, this is like a miracle. Usually we can't do these things, Mm-hmm. To be able to write down what Mother said, We tried to show to Mother. Mother said, don't worry about it, it's fine.
And you didn't have a recorder or anything?
Nothing. I didn't have a pen and paper. The person gave me the message, forgot to tell me it was for writing down that thing, So that was another letter that Srimataji dictated to me. It was helping me to give me confidence on how to write. On another occasion, she also told me to write down my testimonial about Sahaja Yoga. So, and again, I said to Mother, I don't know what to write, Oh, don't worry about that, how hard is that? You can write, And then she dictated the whole letter to me. What a fantastic letter she dictated. So Next day I go back to my room to write it down, and suddenly, oh my goodness, I can write about Sahaja Yoga so easy, Of course, Mataji dictated everything first, and then I'm writing. I think I can write about Sahaja Yoga. It's an illusion, Mother was really helping me that way. And this letter was to do with an attack that they were doing some attack against Sahaja Yoga in India, in Maharashtra. In fact, during the Indian tour, all the Sahaja Yogis were sitting together in a place, meditating. Mataji was on the hall, on the stage, and some people came and threw some big stones at the Sahaja Yogis, They didn't like Sahaja Yoga, a small group of people there.
I think they were part of a false guru, right?
They were members of that, they were like disciples of a very bad false guru who didn't like Mataji or Sahaja Yoga. In fact, they didn't like any religion at all. They used to call themselves the rationalists. Means they don't believe in superstition, they don't believe in God, they don't believe in scriptures, any deities, just rationality and science. And they felt that Mother was spreading traditional knowledge of the deities, so they were angry with Sahaja Yoga. So those testimonials, the testimonial I was writing about myself, how much Mother helped me in Sahaja Yoga and my wife and family, and how much Mother helped everybody. This was important because it comes from the West for the Indians in Maharashtra to see. Look, even the people in the West, have received so much help from Sri Mataji and cures and miracles, everything. So Mother dictated a fantastic letter. When I wrote it the next day, I almost convinced myself I can write about Sahaja Yoga. So this was starting to happen, And but I still didn't know what to write about. Now my confidence now was improving. I was also doing lots of transcripts of Sri Mataji. Transcripts of our talks, So that was another way of practicing. What I didn't have was a subject, So Mother told me to write about Sahaja Yoga, but I didn't know what subject to write about. So at the same time, I was also reading a book against false gurus, but the book was written by a false guru himself. So this is very strange. It's a false guru writing against all the false gurus. So it's not really a good book. And then he even writes against Sri Mataji as well. Can you imagine? So I underlined those 2 lines that were there in 2 pages. He was talking against Sri Mataji. He was talking against Christ, talking against all the prophets of the Old Testament, talking against Sri Krishna, against the scriptures. The man hated God. He didn't believe in God. And so I showed this book to Mother. Mother, do you know about this man? Of course I know about this man. This is the leader of those people that were attacking me, that I asked you to write the testimonial. So, and there I was reading a book by him. This was like, in Sahaja, all these little mayas and little miracles keep happening. It was all related. So I was reading about that book, and Sri Mataji asked me to write a nice testimonial denying everything he's saying to send to India for the newspapers. And then in the end she told me, look, you've been asking me what to write about because you tell me you don't know what to write about since I told you to write about Sahaja Yoga. Why don't you write about William Blake, she said. Because William Blake is a man who really didn't like the rationalists. He spent his whole life writing against rationality. He was a man with great devotion to God, great devotion to Christ.
There is even that painting of, it's Aristotle that's in the depth of the ocean. I think it's one philosopher that they actually criticize. Newton.
Oh yes,
right,
yes.
Yeah.
Another great rationalist.
Yeah.
Although Newton, in fact, was a man who believed in God. Even Newton was not so bad like these rationalists, because Newton had a lot of faith in God, but it was a kind of a more rational type of deity, that sets the laws of the universe in motion, and then it doesn't have much to do with humans. He's there in the spheres, it just makes the laws. And Blake believed in a God that is here with us, helping us at every step when we pray to Him or ask for help. He believes in God incarnating, like Christ came. Christ is like God also, or the Son of God, and He's there here with us on earth. And of course, so he was foreseeing the advent of Sri Mataji, which is again an incarnation of God coming here to England. So. But yes, Blake was against all those things. So that's when she told me, well, now since you have that book in your hand, about a great rationalist, you might as well write about William Blake, who is the person who really specialized in writing against the rationalists. And that's how I got that instruction from Mother in the end. But I still didn't know what to write now, because it's not an easy subject for me. At last, my confidence had been really supported by Sri Mataji that I could write, but I could write about William Blake. But now, what am I going to write about? So we were having this, still having that difficulty, and we had heard on the grapevine that Sri Mataji advised Sahaja yogis in England to go and visit the grave of William Blake. So this is something Sri Mataji had said. We knew that, and we also heard on the talks of Mother that she said, she went to visit the grave of William Blake, and she said the Holy of Holiest is lying there, and people are walking all over his body. There's no respect. It's an appalling situation. This is on a talk she gave in 1984 in London. And my goodness, and if it was in India, we would have respected that place and build something nice for him and show much more respect. This is a terrible situation. So this is Mother's inspiration again for us to do something about that grave if possible. And then suddenly Carol got a job next door to the grave of William Blake, very, very near. So at lunch, she had to go and eat her sandwiches there in that place. So she used to go and eat her sandwiches in front of the gravestone of William Blake. But the gravestone of William Blake says on it that nearby lies William Blake. It doesn't say here lies. Most gravestones will say in England here lies, but this gravestone says nearby lies William Blake.
I think it's William Blake and his wife,
and his
Catherine.
Wife. That's the whole. Yeah. That's the whole text. You are correct. And his wife as well. Although she's not in the same spot as William Blake. This is why I didn't want to say it in case it confuses.
Yeah.
The stone says that, but Catherine, his wife, is actually 70 meters, let's say, away from the grave of William Blake. So we knew there's a problem here. We know it's nearby. We don't know the exact spot. So when we are walking there, we might still be walking over his body because we don't know where it is. So it's important to find out the exact location.
But did Sri Mataji go there? Did she?
She went there. She says she went there. She even in that talk, she even gives you the postcode in case you want to go. She tells you where it is, and this is the postcode in EC1. Mother is still encouraging you to go and visit by giving you the postcode, in case you don't know where it is. In London, EC1. So. And we knew that Mother had encouraged people to go and visit the grave, but so the inspiration for discovering the exact location of the grave of William Blake came from Sri Mataji again very much because in Portugal she discovered the location of a Swayambhu of the Virgin Mary, and she did that spontaneously. It's a very long story, but I will say it now in a few words. While she was going to a fair to buy some artifacts and presents, and there was a big church there on that area of the fair, and while she was being driven from a long distance, she started saying the vibrations are too good, too strong, how do you explain this? And then Sri Mataji asked this question. This is the important question she asked. Do you have one tooth of Lord Buddha here somewhere nearby? Or do you have some hairs of the Prophet Muhammad? Because that would justify Mother feeling such strong vibrations in a place like that, which is not a very special place. It's the outskirts of Lisbon in those days was a bit run down, It didn't look like a special area still, And the Sahaja yogi said, no, Mother, we don't think that we have this type of thing here. You might have heard, Then I said, I think it's probably a Swayambhu, Sri Mataji said. And vibrations are too strong, this is fantastic, As the car approached, getting closer to the church from still a big distance, Sri Mataji said, look there, there's your Swayambhu. And that was a tiny little statue, much less than a foot tall. And that statue was going out on a palanquin in a little procession. And from a distance, Sri Mataji said, yes, that's your Swayambhu. Go and find out. Go and find out the story behind this. And in that church they had a little leaflet, a booklet, in fact, telling the story of that statue. That statue actually came out of the Mother Earth. A dog fell in a hole. They couldn't get the dog out, so they dug the side of the hill to save the dog. And in that grotto, there was the statue of the Virgin Mary. That statue started doing miracles and lots of cures, so people knew this is a holy statue. Mm-hmm. And so it was decided to build a church above the grotto, you see. So Sri Mataji, in a sense, when she taught us this aspect that even one tooth of Lord Buddha or even some hairs of the Prophet Muhammad is enough to give such strong vibration that vibrations that Sri Mataji can feel it at a very long distance. Now, me and Carol, you are there next to the grave of William Blake. We already know it's nearby. So, on top you have all the teeth, not just one tooth, buried there. We have all the hairs of William Blake. Mm-hmm. We have all the bones, even the whole body there. So maybe, some very mediocre-sized yogis like me and my wife, we might be able to also feel it on vibrations, the location. And so it happened, We walked from that stone straight to the grave of William Blake and felt, my goodness, the vibrations. In case you don't believe in vibrations, you just could not doubt that. It was, I sometimes describe it as if someone poured a bucket of cold water over us in August, It was a hot day, and my God, it was amazing sensation, what a bliss. And then came a divine cool breeze, a divine fragrance appeared. And we were amazed by that. And Carol then said, because Carol was born in India, and she said, I remember this fragrance from when I was very little in India. After raining, this was the fragrance, I love this fragrance. This is incredible, And then she said, there's an English plant here in England that also has a similar smell to this. Not quite the same, but similar. So I think we ought to check. But this is very difficult because that plant is not in season. So that plant could not be there in flower anywhere else. But just in case, let's walk around the cemetery and see if you can smell the fragrance somewhere else, coming from somewhere else. Let's walk around with the vibrations and with the hands and see if you can feel the vibrations somewhere else. Nothing. No fragrance, no vibrations. We went round the whole cemetery. As you came back to the same spot, boom. What a column of cool vibrations, and the fragrance is there again. Only in that place. So we knew this must be it. This has to be it, And then we said, all right, we'll come back next week. Let's see if we can feel it again in the same spot or not. If it moves to a different place, then okay, fine. It's Maya, But we need to test it, So we came back next week, next Sunday. Because Sunday is a very quiet place. Sunday there's not many people passing through, because people pass through that cemetery a lot during lunchtime as a shortcut to go to their jobs. So Sunday is quite quiet. So we came back on another Sunday. Our purpose was to see if we can feel it again, and if we can also smell the same divine fragrance. It happened, When you arrived at that spot, oh my goodness, we stayed there with our hands out as if we are praying almost, And suddenly someone taps on the back of my shoulder and he says, what on earth are you doing standing over the body of William Blake? I said, goodness, And how do you know that this is the how do you know that this is the spot of William Blake? Are you praying to William Blake? Yes and no. I mean, this is different because this is Sahaja Yoga. We're feeling the vibrations. Do you know you are standing over the body of William Blake? Yes, we think so. The problem is how to prove it to other people. He said, well, I also know that this is the place, he said. But who are you, Oh, see. He said, I have an art degree, and my favorite painter and poet is William Blake. So, William Blake to me is my life. That's why I know. And I work here as well. He was working as a gardener, because having a degree in art, sometimes you cannot get a job easily. So he was working there as a caretaker. And he said, let me tell you the story then, how I know that this is the place. Because in the past, many years ago, people used to know that the location of the grave of William Blake. But then there was a law ordering all the graves to be taken away from that area and to create a nice lawn. And so that stone, by law, had to be removed to the side. And this was the man in charge of the cemetery in those days, the old man. So this man we met, Robin, that's his name. He said, I met this old man who used to be working here during those days. He was the man in charge. And he's the man who took the stone of William Blake used to be here, where you are now. And he put it over there because he didn't want that stone to be lost or destroyed. So he put it over there. And last week he was coming here. Since just last week he's coming here, and every day he sat in the bench opposite that stone, opposite the location of William Blake's grave. Mm-hmm. So Robin asked him, why do you come here? Stay very quiet here in this bench. Why this spot? You never go to a different bench. What's so special about this bench? And he said, this bench is opposite the grave of William Blake. That's why it's the best bench for me. And I'm here to give thanks to William Blake, and to God also, because he felt that job is what made him such a success. He became a millionaire. It's after doing that job there. He paid a lot of respect to everything. He was a very, very decent, responsible man, and he got promoted. And after that, life went very well for him, and he became a millionaire. So that's why he came to say thanks. He refused to give his name because sometimes millionaires don't like to give their names. People come to them for raising funds for this, raising funds for that. So Robin was in trouble. He said, I know this is the place of the burial of William Blake, but I have no proof at all, he said, because no one is going to believe me. An old man told me, And you people, meaning me and Carol, you also know that this is the place you discovered alone on vibrations, but who's going to believe you about vibrations, you see? So what you have to do, he said, this is like you are a God sent, because Carol is a landscape architect, so she can do all the measurements according to the coordinates to determine the exact location again. Because that location used to be known and used to be determined by the coordinates that they write on the burial book. They write the coordinates of the location. So it's a matter of making those calculations again. Mm-hmm. And since I am a lawyer, so you can go to the archives and do all the research. Mm-hmm. And then he said to me, and once you do all that, what you have to do is write it all down. So you better write. So it is telling me not to step over the grave of William Blake, like Mother was saying, and it's telling me to write about William Blake concerning his grave and the grave of his wife and all that. So you can imagine how much inspiration we were getting and help from Mother. During the process of research, it was miracle after miracle, This was already a small miracle for us, but there were many like this. It's as if Mother was actually the one doing all the discoveries on the archives. So in the end, the article we wrote was accepted by the Blake scholars worldwide. Initially it was difficult because English Heritage had written that the grave of William Blake is unknown officially. So
first you wrote an article explaining where should be the location, and then you publish in a place?
Then I sent it to English Heritage and what was it? We sent to English Heritage and to Historic English. We sent it to the City of London as well. They were the owners of the cemetery. And then we sent it to the Blake Archive in America and to the Blake Society as well. But Shimataji had already even told me to join the Blake Society in England. Would you believe? Many years ago she told me you should join the Blake Society and help them out. She said that to other people as well. Mm-hmm. But none of us did it because we felt these guys are a bit mad. They don't believe in Sahaja, So we didn't. But after this, I decided Mother is right. I have to join the Blake Society after all.
So you are still a member of the Blake Society?
Yes, still today. Yes. But it started then. After discovering the grave of William Blake, at last I did what Mother said of joining the Blake Society and helping them out. Things took a long time. I mean, we knew Mother said, go and visit the grave of William Blake. And we were afraid to go to the graveyard, We didn't want to go because it's a graveyard, so we didn't go. It's only when Carol started going there to eat the sandwiches at lunchtime that I felt, okay, it's not so bad, that place. There's lots of people going around.
It's also an old graveyard, so I think
very
it's
ancient.
not recent.
Very ancient.
People buried
so
there.
There's been no recent burials there for centuries, for many centuries. After William Blake was buried, after maybe 50 years or so, or less than 50 years, the cemetery was closed down.
Okay.
So there's nothing freshly buried there much. It's been, and there's lots of people going through because it's a shortcut for going to work in the city. So
it's very small as well, isn't it?
yes, and very small. So it's not a frightening place. But see, we're afraid of ghosts. We're afraid of cemeteries. We didn't even go there to see the grave until Carol started going there alone for eating sandwiches, with the colleagues at work. I said, all right, I'm going there at last. And that's when all this started happening, And then at last I wrote about William Blake. And I have to thank Mother, because if you see how much Mother was supporting me and guiding and giving encouragement from day one.
And then you start, this was after that you found the grave that you start writing about William Blake? Or
First time I wrote, I had already done those little photographs, There was another occasion that I wrote another newsletter to Mother from Liverpool. That was a Liverpool newsletter. Again, I put some paintings of William Blake, I cut them from a book and stuck them to the newsletter, and wrote a little bit about William Blake, and a little bit I wrote also about Sri Mahavira, And but I didn't have anything to say about Sahaja Yoga much. I didn't know what to say, so I put a very big painting from a child. This was a painting made by a small child, 7-8-year-old, of a beautiful painting of Mother fighting with all the negative forces in the skies, like a cosmic fight in the air, Mother is kind of dancing in the skies and fighting the negativity. And this was a 7-year-old boy who did this painting, So I got a message from Mother. I forgot to write the name of the boy. I just said a young boy, 7 years old. I didn't say who he was. So I got a message from Mother. Louis, you can come and see Mother. She wants to speak to you. I said, why? Oh, it's about that newsletter. I said, okay. So Mother told me the same. I enjoyed very much. She put those pictures of William Blake there, and we talked about William Blake. But, she wanted to know, who is that boy, who did that fantastic painting. And you forgot, that's wrong. I didn't put his name, you see, and the name of the parents and everything. And Mother wanted to meet them, So that newsletter. So Mother was very encouraging. Every time I wrote some small little something, it was terrible. Whatever I wrote was nothing, but Mother was always encouraging and supporting. So that's another occasion I wrote. So in essence, I had never written about William Blake until Mother at last told me to write about William Blake. And it's only after discovering the grave that at last I had to write about William Blake. And after that, I think the fear of writing disappeared. And then I started writing more.
I think what's important also to tell about the finding the William Blake's grave is that I think it was BBC who came to cover, not to...
True. That was very lucky, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was very nice. So you can find this video where Louis and his wife Carol show I don't know who was the presenter, but show this journalist now where it's exactly the grave of William Blake. So it's a very nice video. And it's in your website.
I have that there as well. Yes, we have that video.
Tell the website. What's the name?
It's my name, in fact, luisgarrido.org.
So it's LuisGarrido.org.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So certain things we wrote about William Blake and Sahaja Yoga, we put them on that website, and other things. One or two other things we wrote about Sahaja Yoga that they are there as well.
So but would be nice also to know who was William Blake, because I think a lot of yogis, they have seen some paintings, they have heard a few comments from Shimataji about him, but who was William Blake?
So it's quite a hard... that put me blank. Now I've gone blank. What to do?
Because also I have a very interesting story that once I went to do a job. This was in Soho, and I didn't know actually anything about Soho. And then I went to the agency. It was a design agency, and when I entered in the agency, there was a plaque.
Yes.
This is the house where William Blake was born.
Yes.
I mean, the house is not there, but it's a building now.
Yes.
And in the first floor, it was this agency. So I thought that was amazing, like a coincidence that I went there.
That's incredible, yes. Mother does these things, she brings you to these places, really.
Mm-hmm.
That's a speciality, isn't it? Yes, who is William Blake, I tell you, everything I ever wrote about William Blake is based on Sri Mataji's talks, really. Mm-hmm. And things she told me also about William Blake. So that's, in essence, I've not said anything new about William Blake, it's all in Mother's talks. And even the things Mother told me, you may find these are things that they are in Mother's talks, So it's not as if I have any special or different knowledge about Sahaja Yoga. But all I can say is that Sri Mataji spent a considerable amount of time talking to me about William Blake. And although I forgot some of the things she said, certain things I just cannot forget ever, because there were such miraculous events in the presence of Mother that you can never forget. And I say miraculous because there was actually a miracle during those events. Shall I talk a little about that?
Sure.
About things Mother said about William Blake?
Yeah.
There were quite a few that were important at the time for me. I was at Mother's home that day, in Brompton Square. And there were, of course, there's always lots of people there. There was also a French Sahaja yogi there who was just passing through. And he noticed that on Mother's coffee table, there was a book of William Blake. So Mother told us to come to the sitting room because she was going to talk to all of us together at the same time. And we were there waiting because people come one by one. Some people are doing like dirty jobs, painting. They have to take their overalls out and comb their hairs or whatever they're doing. It takes time to come, or they want to finish and close the tins from the paints, So when Mother said, everybody come now, I'll speak to all of you together, there were a few people missing still. We're waiting for them. And this friend Sahaja yogi said, "Oh, Mother, that's a book of William Blake, isn't it?" Yes. And he said, "Mother, can I see it?" And Mother said, "Yes, you can, but you know what? I'll show it to all of you at the same time then. That may be the easiest, So we're still waiting for another 3 or 4 people to arrive. Mother wouldn't start until those arrived, because, they need to change clothes, depending what job they're doing. And she started looking at the book of William Blake, page by page, because she was going to show it to us, And each and every painting of Blake in that book, Mataji was looking very carefully. She was putting the head almost inside the book to see, And she was saying, yes, wonderful, wow. And Mother's face was like transforming, She was so much enjoying those paintings, Then she went to the next page. She did the same, She was sometimes going very, very, very close to the book to see in great detail whatever was there in that painting. She wanted to see the exact detail, and then she was kind of zooming out and seeing the whole painting. And she was saying, "Oh my goodness, it's amazing, wonderful, wow. And we were just sitting there waiting. And Mother is not saying anything, it's just Mother is watching the paintings page by page. And it was like a show in itself, just seeing Mother's face and Mother's exclamations of wonder and enjoyment, and so, oh my goodness, this is going to be incredible. Whatever is there in that book and Mother is going to show us, this is going to be fantastic, you see. So at last those guys that were missing, they arrived, they sat down, and then Sri Mataji started from the beginning. She looked at each page, and then she turned the book and showed it to us. When she showed it to us, we were like, what amazing vibrations, This doesn't happen every day, at least not for me, to feel such strong vibrations like this. Not just to me, to everyone. Everyone in that room, we all felt the vibrations were so strong. We were all saying, wow, just like Mother was saying. It was contagious. Suddenly we were all crazy about William Blake. It was like we were the greatest fans of William Blake, all of us now. And then Mataji would say, "Oh, see, do you see this detail here? Do you see this is about Sahaja Yoga? Can you see the vibrations or the someone, whatever?" There were Sahaja motifs in those paintings about Sahaja Yoga. Sometimes his hands above the Sastrara, or hands feeling the vibrations, or it could be a deity, or could be auras around the saints or around the deities. There was lots of Sahaja motifs, the street channels, and several deities. Mother was explaining all the motives about each and every painting, but each and every painting it was the same. Mother would first see the painting and say and make this type of signs of great deep enjoyment she was getting from the painting. And we knew this is going to be fantastic. We'd see Mother's face was changing. And then when she showed us the painting, oh my goodness, wow, all of us at the same time. It was like you didn't applaud because, we were in front of Mother, otherwise you would have applauded. It was incredible. And then again, Sri Mataji would show us some little aspect that is obviously related to Sahaja. And this went on, the whole book Mother went through. What a long time, So this was perhaps one of the greatest, by the end of the book, before Mother would tell us what are the Sahaja elements, we would, oh Mother, I can see this, that and that, all of us, now we are experts, we're telling Mother, what are the Sahaja symbols, the Sahaja elements in it. Mother didn't even have to tell us anymore, we all became experts that day. It was a tremendous lesson of Sahaja for us to see. We can actually feel great vibrations from William Blake's paintings, well, especially when Mother is there, that's for sure. And we don't need to even understand anything about these paintings in order to enjoy the vibrations from them and to have a great experience, because we didn't know the meaning of those paintings. Some are quite obvious, If it's a painting of Christ, we know it's a painting of Christ, or the Virgin Mary with the baby. Yes, those, of course, we understand the subject at least. But most of them, we don't know what it means. And still, the vibrations were incredible. So that was the main lesson, to understand that it's not necessary to understand the paintings rationally. Even just the vibrations of it is a great start. Then if you want to read what it says on the book, it might explain you a little things about that painting, or you might be able to see those Sahaja elements in that painting. So to me, that was the greatest master class that Sri Mataji gave us about William Blake. It lasted so long, and I was a fool because I never wrote down things Mother said. Just kept it in my head. I thought I'd never forget this, but one does, So if you ask me, I used to be ashamed when I've said this story. People ask me, tell me the name of that book. I don't know. Can you tell me what Mother said about each painting? That I don't remember, you see. That is too much, to remember. So I wish I had written certain things like this.
So I think 2 years ago there was an amazing exhibition
yeah,
of William Blake. So
yes.
it would have been amazing to go with you, and perhaps you would remember some of the comments from Srimati.
Yes, I also went to that place, the Tate Gallery, with Srimataji in person. She went there, and I also went with Mother. There were a few Sahaja Yogis at the Sahaja Yogis as well, a few. Place was very full. That exhibition was very, very busy. But Sri Mataji, this is what amazed me at that time. She looked at each and every painting of William Blake, each and every one, and she even read what's written there by the curators about that painting. Mother was really doing in-depth understanding and research, and Mother showed so much interest for William Blake, and that really was an inspiration to see. On that day, I received the message, the invitation, but we had a small baby. And it takes more than half an hour just to dress the baby up and prepare a pack and a bottle and the nappies and this and that. And Mother was going to go. There was a very short time, in half an hour, Mother is going to be there at the museum. So I said, Carol, forget it. Because I know it takes half an hour to prepare the baby and all that, I just rushed and went. And I said, I'll take you there next week, I don't want to miss this with Mother, So I rushed there, and arrived just on time still. And what Carl was saying was that it really pays to look at each painting in detail and try and see it carefully, the way Mother used to look at those paintings in great detail. The details are important. And she even read what's written there. Mother knows everything, but still, she bothered to read what's written by the curators and look at the paintings very carefully. But the most extraordinary thing she did, because this is a public place, there are other people there, the place was very full, and Mother put the hands towards each and every painting to feel the vibrations. And she told us all, see, can you check, can you feel the vibrations of this painting, And then Mother would move to the next, and then we'd go there. Oh my God, yes, we are here in a place so busy, such a crowd, and we can feel the vibrations of this painting, Next painting, the same. Mother saw the painting, studied it, looked carefully, put the hands towards the painting, and she said, amazing, amazing, can you feel the vibrations of this painting? We'd all go there, all of us, 4 or 5 of us. Oh my God, that's amazing, how can this be, Even sometimes, some days, we don't feel vibrations so clearly, but that day in a busy place, we felt the vibrations so strong. All right, Mother just looked at it, she probably, is boosting the vibrations of the painting, or vibrating it for everybody as well, but it's still a very big experience. She did that to each and every painting, she saw everything. But the last thing that impressed me the most, there was a cabinet, glass cabinet, and there was some very little engravings that William Blake did that tiny in the... How, Carol, what do you say, what's the dimensions of those things? How many inches?
4 inches at the most.
Sorry?
4 inches.
Maybe 4 inches. It's so small, they're tiny. And Mother was, bending down towards the cabinet to see those paintings, those engravings.
Mm-hmm.
And how many are there? Those, I think it's 21, isn't it? The verse illustrations, I think it's 21 of them. So Mother was looking, I can't remember the exact number, but Mother was looking at each and every painting and putting the head almost inside the cabinet to see it, and the thing is so tiny. And Mother spent so long, looking at each and every of those Virgil illustrations, they are called. I couldn't even see them properly, leave alone understand what is this about. But Mother's, again, the same, look, check the vibrations, this is amazing, these are really incredible. So I never forgot that. So later on I went to see in a book, what's all this about? Because I look at these illustrations, I haven't got the clue. So, but in some books they will tell you what is the story of the poem of Virgil that William Blake is illustrating. So if you read the poem that Blake is illustrating, then you look at what Blake did, and you realize it's a story about Sahaja Yoga, really. This has a Sahaja motive about the guru, about a disciple that is totally on the left, very depressed, very sad, and then the guru, brings him up to balance again, with lots of love, lots of instructions to him to look at the nature, to enjoy the nature, to be relaxed, to forgive people. The whole story, then suddenly the disciple becomes a great friend of the guru and is totally cleansed, and he starts singing bhajans, he starts writing songs himself, the disciple. So he ends up singing bhajans. It's such a cleansing that the guru gives to the disciple. And we see that in the paintings of Blake. You see a guru giving vibrations to the disciple, and you can see Blake is illustrating certain principles of Sahaja Yoga the way he made those illustrations. So a mother does not need to read the whole thing, but she just knew this was such an important thing, And she really is a top expert on William Blake, no doubt about it. So this was a tremendous inspiration. I ended up writing about these Virgil illustrations because that day when Mother was showing us the book of William Blake, she said she liked the paintings of Christ by William Blake a lot. So I ended up doing a presentation showing all the paintings that William Blake did about Christ, which is many of them. We did so many. So we have a presentation which is the life of Christ through the paintings of William Blake. This is also inspired by that session that Mataji showed us the paintings. She said she likes the way.
And it's also in your website.
It is there as well, a presentation about the life of William Blake seen through the paintings of William Blake. I did that.
Life of Christ.
Life of Christ, yes. This was inspired by Mother because when she said that she liked the paintings he does of Christ so much, and the big auras he puts and vibrations coming from Christ and all that, I said, this is nice to share with every people in Sahaja, every person to see it. So they are there if you want to see. And many of the things, almost everything I did is really the result of something Mother said or inspired by Mother. I don't know if I'm taking too long with this.
No, that's,
sure.
that's excellent.
Because Mother said a few more things to me about William Blake. There was, I think this one was particularly important for me. She said there was also another French Sahaja that day that came to see Mother there at Brompton Square. And he asked Mataji, that there was a boy in the collective, a young boy, and his name was William. Mm-hmm. And so he asked Mother, is this boy the reincarnation of William Blake? He asked that to Mother because somehow he did not understand the story about that boy. It's very interesting. The father of that boy was one of the first Sahaja Yogis that he was always reading William Blake, that Sahaja Yogi. And while reading it, he could say, oh my goodness, this is about Sahaja Yoga, this is about Sahaja Yoga, this is about Sahaja Yoga. And then he would go and show it to Mother, and Mother said, yes, absolutely, no doubt about that. So, because he was so enthusiastic about Blake, and he was always discovering prophecies about Blake inside the writings of William Blake, when his son was born, Mother said, we are going to call him William in honor of William Blake, and in honor of the fact that the father was such not so knowledgeable he was about William Blake, always reading it. In fact, in the end, Mataji said, in fact, the whole book of Milton, this is a book written by Blake. Blake wrote a book called Milton, a poem. Mm-hmm. And Shimata says that book William Blake wrote, it's all about Sahaja Yoga. You see, so that Sahaja Yoga had discovered quite a lot there about William Blake, but Mother says the whole book is about Sahaja Yoga. Now that's a step higher to be able to see. It's not just one sentence here or there, it's the whole book is about Sahaja Yoga. And that's actually the hardest book William Blake wrote of all the ones. They're all hard, but that one is the hardest of all. But it's all about Sahaja Yoga. So it's a big challenge. Mother has encouraged people to read that book. And in that book, in fact, the front cover of that book, they call it the frontispiece, it's a picture of Milton. Mm-hmm. And William Blake has a habit of painting people naked, everybody knows that. Mataji has said many times, William Blake can do that. He's allowed to do that because he's totally innocent. It doesn't matter. When he does it, he's such a personality. He's not trying to excite our base instincts. It's something sublime, divine. The fact people are naked, sometimes, not always, but so many times, Blake paints people naked. So he painted Milton totally naked. Mm-hmm. But look, you are looking at him from the back. This is the cover of that book. And Milton has the hand up in the air, and we don't know what he's doing, with his finger pointing. And you see the clouds are doing like the shape of a spiral, It's as if he's controlling the elements, like Sri Mataji said to us that, she has given us as yogis so many powers that we can also control the elements. This is Mother said many times on the tapes. We find hard to believe in this.
Yeah.
I do, it takes faith sometimes to believe because, who are we to be able to do that? But there was a Sahaja Yogi, he told me what I find is maybe one of the most interesting stories about Sri Mataji that he experienced, Maybe shall I talk about that one?
Please.
Sure.
Yeah.
So this Sahaja Yogi, he was there at Mother's house, and he comes from a hot country, Latin America, you see, very hot. And this was, the weather in England in August was miserable, really horrible. And he said, Mother, this weather is so miserable. And Mother said, all right, if you want a nice weather, I can give you, just to make you happy, And then there was a heat wave. It was like tropical. It was terrible, People were complaining, this never happens in England, So he felt a bit worried. What have I done here, So it was very, very hot after that. And during that heat wave, Mataji went shopping. Mm-hmm. And all the windows in Mother's house were open, And because it was so hot, So Mother went shopping. When Mother came back, he rushed to the car to help, bring the shopping home, And the Mother looked at him and said, what's wrong, Is there any problem, really? What's the problem? He seemed very, very worried, Oh, there was a massive problem, So what happened? The neighbor started burning rubbish in the backyard. Mm-hmm. Terrible smell. And the wind it was terrible. The wind was bringing all the smoke straight to Sir C.P.'s window. And, Sasipi used to have a little bit of a bad chest, sometimes a bit of angina. So this smoke was not good for him at all, very bad. So he had a big dilemma, you see. I could go and tell the neighbor to stop this nonsense, but if he did, he would upset the neighbors. They might become enemies of mother, enemies of Sahaja Yoga. There's been problems with neighbors sometimes. The neighbors sometimes, they can turn against Sahaja Yoga. It's happened to us in England, So he didn't know what to do, He felt I don't have any sense of discrimination. Maybe I should have talked to the neighbor, but if I talk to the neighbor, he will get very angry, then I cause trouble. If I don't do anything, what kind of Sahaja Yoga am I? In the end, he closed all the windows, but then I was too hot, So this was his problem. And mother said that was so easy to solve. All you had to do was change the direction of the wind. Problem solved. I said, goodness me. But he says to mother, okay, that's what he said to mother. How can I change the direction of the wind? I'm only I'm a Sahaja Yogi, but still. And mother says, any Sahaja Yogi can do that. Don't you have vibrations in the hands? Yes, but like this. So mother raised the hand. And he couldn't believe it. The clouds all moved to the other side of the sky, Goodness me, and the wind, Oh my God. Then mother used the other hand and move them to the other side, See, that's easy, you can do it, He didn't believe it, So I said, you know what to do tomorrow? Go and do another big fire in the backyard as well. And then you decide where the smoke is going to go. But make sure it doesn't go to Sasipi's window, that's all. So he had to do it because mother told him to do it. Mm-hmm. So it happened, He was able to do it also. He makes sure the wind doesn't go to the wrong place, And he said, oh my goodness. So he told us that story.
Have you ever tried to do it?
No, I have never tried. I mean, I don't dare try this, Yeah. But that story gave me a lot of confidence in certain things. Then I saw, this explains that painting, It's like moving all the elements, Milton in that painting,
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like a big spiral of the Kundalini in the sky, So Blake is also showing us some aspects of Sahaja Yoga that, as Blake says, men of God will become prophets. This is one of the greatest prophecies of William Blake about Sahaja Yoga. Mm-hmm. And when that happens, then you can control the elements, like that friend of ours from Latin America did, Sahaja Yoga, Mm-hmm. Even we can do it. Now, I have never tried that one of changing the direction of the wind, by the way. But we had just heard that story. And we were going on a walk, me and Carol, by the river with our baby, in the pushchair. It was very cold, Now, I used to tell Carol that before Sahaja Yoga, I boasted a little bit. I could do a few miracles too. But that after hearing that story, I told her, look, let me tell you that the truth is, before Sahaja Yoga already, I was doing a few little miracles too, Oh, really? That's fantastic. Tell me about it, So I had told her my little miracles, The little miracles were very silly, I mean, going to church, me and my cousin, we didn't like the letters of St. Paul, If the priest read the letter of St. Paul, oh my God, that's worse. And then the sermon was horrible, We didn't mind if it's the other parts of the Gospel, St. Matthew, St. John, or St. Luke, or St. Mark, but letters of St. Paul, we didn't like it, So I used to say a little prayer, oh God, please, not today, not a letter of St. Paul, please, 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 not a letter of St. Paul. And we knew, if ever I said that prayer, we would never get a letter of St. Paul. But if I forgot to say the prayer, there it is. The letter of St. Paul. So we knew this was one of my little powers I had. I boasted to her. You see, because after hearing that story, I told her, I also used to do a few little miracles before Sahaja even, And I boasted another one. This one is very silly also. This was that. You see, the Atlantic Sea is very cold. And we were very young and very thin, all of us. We were taking a bath in the sea in September. It's very cold. Mm. And unless the sun is shining, we need to dry ourselves very fast in the sun to get warm again. Because we were very thin in those days and very young. And then I used to say a little prayer to the sun. Whenever I said that, there it is, very strong sun until we get dry, and then that's it. Because September, some days you don't get a strong sun. And this happened all the time, year after year after year. Sometimes my friends used to say, "Oh, can you bring us the little sun, please? Oh, little sun, come for us, because it's so cold, So I boasted of this little miracle too. I boasted of a third one, which was I used to see the little stars in the sky, like little lights, all the time. And I kept asking people, if they can you see this? No, nobody. There must be something wrong with my eyes, But Mother mentioned that, this is something happens to people after self-realization. You may see those little lights in the sky. They are like golden sky lights in the sky, And Mother talked about that. So, well, I also had a few little miracles to boast to my wife. So when we went for a walk, Carol decided to tease me, It was very cold, and she was worried the baby might get cold here in this walk. Why don't you bring the sun now, since you have all those powers, Now she put me on the spot, Thank God I had just heard that story, So I was full of confidence. So I asked the sun to come. The sun came straight away.
Wow.
Oh my God! And Carl told me, "Okay, don't let that go to your head, all right? This is just a coincidence, The wind probably moved those clouds for you, so the sun is there, Don't lose your head over these things, Careful of ego, Fair enough." So we were just chatting like this, and while we were chatting, a big trout jumps out of the river.
Wow.
And so I said, "Oh God, did you see that trout?" Carl said, "No, I didn't. I was just looking at the baby, So she teases me again. "Okay, I think you might as well tell the trout to come out again for me to see now. See if you can do that with your powers after all." So I told, "Oh, trout, please jump again, And the trout jumped again, very big one, And Carol again said, "All right, you see, fair enough. There's plenty of trouts here, from time to time they jump. It's just you're lucky, It's a coincidence, Can you do it again, please, just to see?" So, okay. "Oh, little trout, please jump again." And boom, the trout jumped again. What a big trout, And she said, "All right, this is too much, Let's get out of here. Because if you go to a different part of the river, there may not be so many trouts there. Sometimes they're in a certain spot. If there are many there, it's going to happen." So we carried on our walk, We didn't see any trouts at all for a long time. Okay, that's the end of the trouts now. And she said, "Okay, now show me one of your trouts, please." This is going to be tough now. She's putting me to the test, So at least I have to try, "Oh, trout, please, can you jump again?" And the trout came, and she tested me a few more times, and the trout came, and I said, "Oh, police, I feel afraid of doing these things. We don't have the right to mess up with nature like this for nothing, just for fun, really." But it was
trout enchanter.
But this was really inspired by that painting of William Blake and the story of Mother telling us that we have those powers Mother gave. Now, about one incredible power of Sri Mataji about William Blake is that one day we were living in Cardiff in those days, and we came to London and we said, "What shall we do? Nice activity. Okay, let's go and see the painting of William Blake, the portrait of William Blake at the National Portrait Gallery." So I went there to see it. I had never seen it in person. I'd seen a little postcard of that portrait, but never saw the big portrait. And they also have a little head of William Blake there in bronze, very nice. So we saw that, and suddenly the Sahaja Yogis appeared at the same time. This is quite a coincidence. Some Sahaja Yogis from abroad had come to England, and they also didn't know what to do. What shall we see? Okay, let's go and see the portrait of William Blake at the National Portrait Gallery. That's quite an amazing coincidence. So we were all there. And then, okay, let's go to the shop where they sell, postcards of William Blake and little things, And I said, oh, look, they're also selling a replica of the head of William Blake, which in the books they used to call it the mask of William Blake. And some books called it the death mask of William Blake. So, all right, I'd like this, I said, maybe Mother likes one. Okay, let's buy one. If Mother likes it, we'll make it a collective present for Mother. If she doesn't, I'll keep it because I like it. Even if it's a death mask, I like it. But Mother may not like it if it's a death mask. I don't know. We don't know. Best is to ask Mother. But when do you get to see Mother? And one of these Sahaja Yoginis who came there, he said, "Oh, there's an invitation for everybody to come to see Mother at the concert. There's a concert of Amjad Ali Khan, sarod player, and Mother is going to go to the Commonwealth Institute to see that concert, And so you might get a chance at the interval to ask Mother if she likes it, very good. If she doesn't, well, I'm very happy to keep that one, because it's the face of William Blake after all. But at the concert during the interval, there were lots of VIP people there from the Indian embassy. Sasipi was there as well. And Mother had to talk to those important people, so there's no chance to talk to Mother.
So you were waiting there in your seat?
No, we were standing outside during the interval, you see, and Mother's talking to those very important people, There's no chance to ask Mother, And time is running out. It's about time to go now back to the concert. I miss my chance, really. You never know, The box... The head of William Blake was inside the box. The box was very tightly fit. So when you open the lid, you cannot see the face of William Blake. All you can see is the bald patch here at the top of the head. The Sahstrara, really. That's all one can see if you take the lid from the box. So when I took the lid from the box, Sri Mataji at the back turned towards me. She turned round immediately. She pointed at the statue of William Blake in the box. And she said to me, "Isn't he beautiful? He is in meditation." I said, from that distance, just the top of the head inside the box, Mother really knows with this. The moment I take the lid, she turns around. She was talking to important people, and she tells me, "Isn't he beautiful? He is in meditation." She turned back and continued to talk to those people, because these were very important people from the Indian embassy and. So that's it. She just turned around, told me, gave me the answer to my question. You see, he's in meditation means he's not dead. You see. So, in fact, if you read some good biographies of William Blake, because some biographies are done by top experts, others are done by people who admire William Blake a lot. They write about him. They may not get all the details correctly. Even at the museum, they were calling that statue. It's a replica. It's not the original, of course. What you buy is a replica, but they were calling it the death mask of William Blake, which is not. In fact, this statue was made when William Blake was alive. He went for that session to take the mask. Out of the mask, they built that little head, which is that little statue of the bronze. They made the bronze, they made the plaster from it. And William Blake, actually, if you read the biographies, they say William Blake fell asleep while they were doing this. But Mother is saying no, actually he was in meditation. That's a different thing. So Mother knows the whole story. I mean, from a certain distance, as soon as you take the lid, she turns around. Isn't he beautiful? He's in meditation. And then turns the back.
Did you give to her later? Or?
Yes, later, because she likes it, so that's fine. So it's not dead after all. She said it's beautiful. So if it's beautiful, I think Mother accepts it, it's correct. So it was, to me, that was also a great miracle that Mother did there. It just shows Mother's powers about William Blake is unending. It goes on and on.
So now that we're still talking to William Blake about this power of the left side, are there any other miracles that you would like to share?
Yes. In fact, I never finished that story. I think I got distracted somehow. I forgot. I was talking about that boy who asked Mother if that boy was the reincarnation of William Blake. And Sri Mataji said to me, William Blake is in my body, don't forget that, William Blake is in my body. And she put her hands in her belly saying that, William Blake is in my body. There are no other incarnations out there. In this time, they're all with me. So it made it very easy for me to understand this. All you have to do is to worship Sri Mataji, and William Blake is there. So we don't worship William Blake as such. We worship Sri Mataji, maybe in the form of William Blake, or in the form of Christ, in the form of the Virgin Mary, or the form of Mahakali. But all we do really is we worship Sri Mataji, nothing else. But After all the deities are there with Mother, including William Blake as well. So that for me was quite a strong lesson as well. Out of that question the French Sage Yogi asked, These French Sage Yogis, they ask very good questions, I think. But Mother was not very happy with that question,
And there are any other kind of stories, any miracles that
Oh
you'd
my
like to
goodness,
share?
it's unending, really. This is Mother, the way people used to say there's a great saint and incarnation in India, Sai Baba of Shirdi. He was, even Mother says that about him, he was always doing miracles, It was,
There is also another very good PDF on your website about Shri Desai.
Yes, we did that too, yes. That's another person we admire a lot because all these miracles he did. And Sri Mataji is just, and Mother even says that about him. So many miracles he was doing, so many cures. But I think what we find in Sahaja, Mother is just the same. Mother is also doing miracles every day for everybody and extraordinary things, This is also in Mother's nature. And like Christ was also doing great miracles and lots of cures.
Mm-hmm.
But so is Mother. Mother was doing cures left and right. She was curing the whole world and doing all sorts of miracles all the time. You may say, yes, there were a few miracles even before Sahaja already. But after Sahaja, it's a different dimension, Mm-hmm. In fact, since you asked me about miracles, I had 2 miracles at the lunatic asylum. I mean, this is a bit strange.
Lunatic asylum?
Of all places, I had 2 miracles at the lunatic asylum.
But you went there to give self-realization? Or?
No, not at all. This was worse, I had 1 miracle there before Sahaja Yoga and 1 after Sahaja Yoga. So you can compare that. After Sahaja Yoga, it's a different dimension, it's a different thing. But I think I mentioned earlier, last time we spoke, about my aunt,
Oh, yeah.
So, but I also mentioned, but this is more important, that the first time I saw Sri Mataji, I got a vision where I saw my previous lives,
Mm-hmm.
And in those previous lives, I could see that there was like a deity or or a saint or an angel in the sky looking after me all my lives, and helping me, preventing me from going wrong or doing very serious mistakes and defending me, protecting me. That's the dream I saw. That's a vision I saw when I first saw Sri Mataji. And in fact, the story that happened to me at the lunatic asylum is like an example of that, how Mother can defend you and protect you from a great, great danger. And so the way it happened was, I was about 14 years old, and I didn't used to like to talk about what I want to do when I grow up. I didn't want to tell my parents that, because I thought they might think I'm mad. If I told them what I want to do when I grow up, this is not very pleasing.
But as far as I remember, you knew that you would marry Carol.
That much, I had stopped talking about that as I grew up, you see. I said that when I was very young, and then I couldn't tell my parents what is my goal, my greatest dream in life, my goal, I just couldn't tell them, and they were worried, maybe I need to see a shrink, So there was a family friend, was a psychiatrist,
Mm-hmm.
and they asked him, he said, yes, send me the boy, It's cheaper and it's free, in fact, if you send him to the lunatic asylum, because he works there as a shrink, as well. It's free. If you send him to my private practice, it's very expensive. So, all right, send him to the lunatic asylum. It's quite a good shock therapy, because this place looks like a prison or a fortress. There are people in cages there with the metal bars, and my goodness, if you look at those people, it's horrifying. I was quite young, I was 14 years old. Very long corridors, you get lost there, It's a very ancient building. And the people are not in the cages, so to say, or the cells with the bars, These people are also very frightening and very dangerous. They're there for a reason, Mm-hmm. And there I am. I mean, I'm not mad. It was just that there was a small problem, my parents felt maybe a bit depressed, or maybe some problem. I don't want to talk about my future, what I'm going to do when I grow up, I didn't want to discuss that. So that friend, psychiatrist, said, "Leave him to me. That I'll find out what's going on, you know." So I went there, you know. It's just one session. One session was enough, but ended up being 4 sessions because I refused to tell him about what I wanted to do and my dreams. He knows my parents. He's going to tell them, you know. So I didn't trust him. So in the end, he told me, I protested. I was a teenager, so I lost my patience. They told me that I was coming here once. It's 4 times now. I want the end of this nonsense, you know. You know. And they said, "All right, that's fine. That's enough, you know. I already wrote my report for your parents. I'm saying very nice things about you. You are a very good person, very nice. Everything's fine. There's nothing wrong with you. You are an excellent student also. You know, it's only this problem. You are not telling me what you want to do later in life, you see." I said, "All right, I'll tell you on condition. You don't tell my parents." "Right, it's just between me and you." So I said, "Well, I want to meet God. You know, this is what I want. I want to meet God. I want to meet Christ. I want to meet the Holy Ghost. And I want to meet a woman like me, you know, who wants to build altars for God, and then we will worship in those altars, and we build the altars. And this is the dream of my life. Find a woman like that and to build some altars and worship God and meet Christ and meet the Holy Ghost and find the yoga, you know, and get that union with God and things, you know." He said, "Right, you know, no big deal, you see. This is no problem at all." Problem solved, you know. That's the end of it. Our sessions are over now. I'll keep it between me and you. I won't tell your parents, you know.
So you were afraid that they would perhaps take you and put in a cell there?
I don't know. I think they wouldn't like me saying that. So he said, in fact, the psychiatrist said to me, "There's something I can help you after all," he said. "There's a little danger you might fall into the traps of mysticism or going to witchcrafts and occult. And if you do, then you could end up in a lunatic asylum. Because so many of my patients I have here are like that, you know. They've started doing witchcraft and occult and talking to the dead spirits and all that nonsense. And this is where they ended up. And I don't want you to believe me. I'm going to show you 1 or 2 of them." So he opened the door. Let's see if we can see one of his patients that, because some of them are loose, you know, that is there for that reason, because of doing black magic and all that sort of thing. Considering that you are a person who has a great interest for all these mystic things, you know, so long as you stay away from that dark stuff, dark side of things, you'll be fine, you know. So this is how I can help you. So he opened the door and is waiting for some patient of his to come that suffers from that condition. Mm-hmm. And he said, "Oh, here comes one." It was a lady, you see, and she was walking with the eyes closed, and there were 2 ladies, 2 nurses holding her by the arms so she doesn't fall. Mm-hmm. And they said, "See, I put her on a sleep therapy. She has to sleep a lot, and then she has to do a little exercise. So now here she comes. The eyes are closed." I said, "Oh, I know this lady. This is the witch that my mom goes to see, you know. And sometimes she even comes to my place." "Oh my goodness, yes. It looks like I can help you after all. I'm going to write on the report that they must not let you meet that woman. She's completely mad. She's my patient." "And what's her name?" he asked me, just to test if I knew her. "This is the name. I know. Yes. That's her. I'm amazed you even know her so well." He said, "Yes, she comes to our home. It's a terrible," he told me, "this is a terrible woman. Absolutely mad, completely mad. No one should meet her or take advice from her or anything." So this great psychiatrist wrote on my report, after all, you know, don't let him meet this type of people or this and that. I felt this was Mother helping me to stay away from something so dangerous, which was going on in my home even, because my mom was involved with those things, you know. So that was the little miracle in the lunatic asylum before Sahaja Yoga. Wow. But then I got a much greater miracle again at the lunatic asylum. That's a nicer one. It's because now it's with Mother. It's a nice. I think it's a much nicer story.
So Mataji went with you to a lunatic asylum? No.
I'll tell you the story. This is a very complicated story, but this is the Mahamaya that Mataji does. I was living in London and I went to Portugal because Mataji was coming for a Diwali puja there. Mm-hmm. And so I arrived and I spent the whole Friday with my parents because, I've not seen them for a long time. And then came Saturday and my parents felt, okay, now he's going to come with us to the lunatic asylum. My father thought that I was going to come to the lunatic asylum to visit my aunt, because my aunt, for a whole month, she lost her head. She went totally, she wouldn't speak to anyone, and if she spoke, she was talking nonsense. They didn't know what is she talking about. She's talking about things that happened when she was very little, and that person. She lost her head. She ended up in the lunatic asylum. She was being treated, but there was nothing they could do about her, And my parents used to go and visit her, every Saturday, just for an hour, but they couldn't get her to speak, or if she spoke, they didn't know what she's talking about. So my father said, okay, so today, thank God you came to England now, you must come and see your aunt in the lunatic asylum. Mm-hmm. I said, Dad, Sri Mataji is arriving at that time, the visiting time is exactly the time Sri Mataji is arriving in the airport. Mm-hmm. I want to go to see Sri Mataji at the airport, And my father says, God, there will be thousands of people there to visit, to see Sri Mataji arriving. Your aunt only has you are the only nephew. She hasn't seen you for years, and now you don't go and see her, This is very wrong, I think Sri Mataji would advise you to go to lunatic asylum and go and see your aunt, mm-hmm. because already so many people are seeing her. I said, no, Dad, I can't, I came here for this puja. I am going to the airport. I'm sorry. My father was really disappointed, And they said, you never know. If she heard your voice, she might start talk again. She might, mm-hmm. she might improve, or because she likes you. She may want to speak with you. Let me tell you a secret. She still talks about Sri Mataji. See, she's the only person in the family. She even talks still a little bit about Sri Mataji. She never forgot about her. And now you refuse to go and visit her, it's very bad. You know what? If you go and see Sri Mataji, tell her advice, ask her opinion. You'll see she will tell you. You should have gone and see your aunt. I promise you that, So I went to see Mother at the airport. I was ashamed to tell these things, so many people, there's no time. Mm-hmm. I didn't say anything, just gave the flowers. I didn't say anything. Then Mother went away, then a French yogi comes to me. Look, they told me you speak Portuguese. Yes, I need some help. He was a French leader, one of the French leaders. And they told me the story. This is very important because there's a very important man in France. His name is the Ayatollah Rumani. He's an Iranian leader, but he lives in France. Okay. He has a big following there. You see, some Iranian people live in France, mm-hmm. Some immigrate abroad. So he had a big following in France, but he's from Iran. His name was the Ayatollah Rumani. And this man likes Sri Mataji very much, and Sri Mataji said, this is a good man, he's a realized soul, And he sent a present for Sri Mataji, which was a very ancient parchment, with Sufi poetry. Mm. On both sides of the parchment they had painted and written beautiful calligraphy, This Arabic calligraphy is very beautiful. Yeah. A very ancient thing, a very ancient document, very precious, with mm-hmm. poetry from a great realized soul of the past. That Sri Mataji mentioned that Sufi saint, was a great realized soul also. So now we can't give this to Sri Mataji like this. We need to frame it. We need a special frame with glass on both sides. Not just, most frames, it's only a glass on one side. But he wanted a special frame with glass on both sides. So this takes a craftsman to do it exactly the size of that parchment. And you need it done now, because the puja then is coming tomorrow. Today's Saturday already. It's one of the gifts, from France, from that great Ayatollah, So it's a big rush, Mm-hmm. So we jumped on a taxi. And we asked the taxi driver, take us to the best of the best framing shops, He said, there's one by the lunatic asylum, but it's a long distance. No, give us one nearby. I didn't want to hear about lunatic asylum, because, God knows, So it takes, I said, no, not that one, another one, not so far. It takes us to another one. And they said, no, we can't do this. Only that there's only one shop in Lisbon does that. Is that one next to the lunatic asylum? No. Tell us another shop, please. Not to the lunatic asylum, please. And we drove with the taxi 2 or 3 places. They all said the same. Go to the lunatic asylum. That's next to it. There's that top framings business. Oh my God. So I told this leader, French leader. He was not national leader, but was one of the French leaders. Can you give a bandana, please? For this situation, I don't want to meet my parents now. They're going to think I'm crazy because I refuse to go to the lunatic asylum to see my aunt. And now if I go there just for a frame, they're going to say, after all, you could have come here to the lunatic asylum, But it's already late now. I would never have reached there on time. So we went to he started giving lots of bandanas as we were driving, and we started feeling tremendous vibrations, So he says to me, vibrations are very good for going to this lunatic asylum, he says. Oh, please. I can feel the vibrations, but what I asked was a bandana, not to go to the lunatic asylum, not to meet my parents now. He said, don't worry about that. Vibrations are very good for lunatic asylum, really. Okay, so we went, So we ordered the job, and the guys told us, we better go to the coffee house there and wait. Then you come and pay. They were working on it. Mm-hmm. So this Sahaja realized, you know what? He didn't have money to pay for the job also, because he had a special French card, and the ATM bank machines in the outside the banks were closed already, because it was already late in a Saturday. And he couldn't get money from those machines, so we need a special machine, So he said, let's go for a walk. You might find an ATM machine that accepts the card. I need this, otherwise how can I pay for this, It's a very precious thing. Now they have that. Mm-hmm. If I don't pay for the frame, they keep it. It's a big problem. And we started walking, and we meet my parents. There they are. I said, what are you doing here? They asked me. And I said, well, I was going to ask you the same. What are you doing here? Don't you know? Yes, I know, but it's so late now. It's about 4 o'clock. The visit was 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, My parents were very happy to see me. So happy, so happy. I thought it's going to be a problem, but it was so joyful. It was like vibrations. Even this Sahaja, he was happy to meet my parents. He was hugging them as if they are family too of him, hugging them and kissing them. And they were so happy to meet us, He said, vibrations are very strong. We must come to this lunatic asylum. And then my father said, you know what? I think we should all go back there to the lunatic asylum. There was a miracle, my father says. At the time Sri Mataji said was going to land, that time your aunt recovered. She's been talking like she knows everything. I've been reading at the newspaper. She wants to know what happened during that month. What are the political news in Portugal? She was very political. She loved the political news. She followed all the political programs. She wanted to read the paper. She wanted to know all the news for the past month. She was back. She knew everything, and she recovered exactly the time Sri Mataji arrived in the country. And then my father said, look, we told her that you are here, but you came here to meet Sri Mataji, not to meet her, so she's very sad, she wants to see you, so let's go there, maybe they let us inside again. But then the French Sahaja said, this is great, yes, I want to go and see your aunt. I said, you can wait outside, I didn't want to see my aunt if she's, a little bit not well, No, I think you better wait outside, this is a family thing. No, I want to go and see our aunt too.
I'm also part of the family.
We can give her vibrations too, oh, not now, you see. And then he asked my dad, because my dad lives there, I have this card from France. Is there any ATM machine where I can use this card? Yes, inside the lunatic asylum. Oh. So that solves our problem. See. So we went there. We talked to our aunt. Talked about Sahaja. He wanted to work on her as well. Oh my God, this lunatic asylum. Now I have 2 miracles at the lunatic asylum. But the miracles with mother are always a bit more joyful.
Amazing. So very good.
Shall I tell a few more miracles?
Yeah, I think so.
Are you sure?
That would be great. Yeah.
I hope I'm not taking too long.
No. It's
Let's see.
a good amount of time.
Yes, this one is another miracle where Sri Mataji saved my life. But the way she did it is quite extraordinary. This shows, all the great powers of Mother to save my life that way. Sri Mataji telephoned me at home, and I was out. The reason I was out is because I decided to go to Sheffield to help prepare for the puja. Mother was going to give a puja in Sheffield, so I decided I'm going to go a few days ahead of the puja. That way I can help out there to do the postering and things,
Public program.
Sorry?
Public program.
Public program. So the posters were for the public program, and then there was an international puja as well. Mm-hmm. So Sri Mataji rang at my place because she wanted to. She had a message for me for a family because she had family there in Cardiff, Mm-hmm. And when she rang, I didn't answer the phone, and she felt this guy is at great danger of dying. That's what Mother felt, because she put the attention on me. And so she kept ringing. I think Mother knows everything, so she kept ringing. Of course, I could not answer the phone because I was in Sheffield,
Mm-hmm.
And then Sri Mataji told the leader, keep ringing him. Don't stop. Every 10 minutes you ring him again. I want my attention on him because his life is at great danger, So 3-4 days later, Sri Mataji arrived in Sheffield for the public program, and we were waiting for her in a queue, with the flowers, to give flowers to Mother. Mm-hmm. While we were waiting for Mother, there was a Sahaja, and she had a really big bunch of flowers for Mother, and I didn't have any. So she said, you must take some flowers, please, I said, no, I don't want, not today. Because it takes too much time, Otherwise, Mother will be late for the public program if we all start giving flowers, I don't want, Oh, but that way you don't get to say hello to Mother. I don't mind, If she wants to talk to me, she'll talk to me, So Mother came, and I was there, and that lady was next to me with a big bunch of flowers. And Mother sees me. What happened to you? I was very worried about your life, So what on earth were you doing? So this is a long story. I had to tell Mother how my life was at danger, how she saved my life. So I told her the whole story. So how it happened was like this. When I arrived there in Sheffield, they had done no postering yet. The reason they had done no postering, they had done no advertising for the program, mm-hmm. because they had printed lots of posters. But then when it came to putting the posters on the walls, they couldn't find any place to put them because it's illegal to put the posters in some places, Mm-hmm. So I said, but in Portugal, I used to put these posters, Sometimes there is this place, a circus, They put big posters for the circus, Mm-hmm. And after some time, if the event is already gone, we put those posters of Mother on top of those. It doesn't matter, nobody minds, because we are not spoiling their posters. It's a past event. Mm-hmm. And then next time they put another poster on top of Mother's program. It doesn't matter because mm-hmm. Mother's program is now in 3 or 4 days. Mm-hmm. Oh, no, we already went there. We also tried those places, and those events are valid, you see. Oh, I need to see that, let's go and see. So we went with the posters, our buckets of glue, and brushes to put them. And I looked at the posters, and I had a terrible problem, another translation problem of mine. I used to know the names of the months, in French, Portuguese, English, and even Latin, because I had studied a little bit of Latin. What a confusion. The English, Portuguese, French, Spanish, and Latin, the names are so similar. The names of the months are so similar. Mm-hmm. I look at the months on the calendar, on the circus posters, and I said, these events are all gone. This is all in the past. Let's put the posters. This is me doing the wrong translation, you see. Mm-hmm. My head melted, And they say, you are gone mad, They tell the other yogis, These events are still valid. They are going to happen this month and next month, you see. If you do this, these guys, these are gangsters, who do these posters. They'll come and finish you up. Mm. No way. I mean, I've been doing this in Portugal so long, These events are all gone. This is past. This is dead, Don't be afraid. I'm going to do it. And I started putting all the posters, and then we went to another place, more posters of the circus, and we put all that very, very fast. We put all the posters there of Mother in that place. We had almost finished, And then a van comes and drives, right against me, against the wall, I could hardly get out of the wall because the van
Oh my God.
drove really right against me, I could hardly get out.
So it was also a criminal coming.
That was a warning, but I didn't realize that at the time because in my mind these events are all past. I did the wrong translations. It's a big disaster, And these Sahaja yogis are just sitting there in the corner saying, today you are going to get in trouble. This is serious here. And they wouldn't do it. They were just sitting at a distance from me because they're not mad, I'm not mad. It's just I did the wrong translation. I wouldn't have done that, So the guy says, look, you have a few seconds to get out of here. There's a second van coming. And, there's about 6 or 7 of them. They come with the cricket bats. They're going to finish you up, You better get out of here. I said, you want me to remove the posters, I want you to get out of here fast. They'll finish, So we throw away the buckets behind the bush. We run away to the bus stop. The first bus that came, we got out of there. And that was it. What a narrow escape. The other van is coming. He said, the other van is coming, Get out. So he jumped into a bus, he ran away. And all the posters were up, So I was telling, this is a long story, I was telling this story to Mother. It took a long time, I didn't want to waste Mother's time now. But Mother asked me what happened, what were you up to? What were you doing? Your life was at great danger. And Mother was, keeping attention on me to save me. So the timing was perfect. We had almost run out of posters. We had put as many as we could in 2 different sites. And then comes the warning. And the guy didn't kill me. The way he drove me against the wall, I could just about get out between the van and the wall. And he said, quick, get out of here. There's the other van coming. It was that dangerous, And we had such a narrow escape, And so I was telling all this story to Mother. But during this, going through this story, because I felt that while I was talking to Mother was talking to that lady next to me as well at the same time. Mm-hmm. This is not me going bonkers. It's just never happened to me before. Mm-hmm. I'm talking to Mother. Mother is listening to this story. Mother already knows the story in any case, probably. Yeah. Meanwhile, Mother is talking to the other lady because that lady really wanted to speak to Mother. Time is short, you see. And I was listening to the 2 conversations. And last thing Mother says to her is, okay, your problem to her is of a private nature. I cannot discuss here in public. So come and see me after the program, come and see me in my room and I'll discuss that with you. And she told me, okay, Louis, you also come, I want to say something. So I said to her, all right, well, Mother invited us to her room, so I might as well take you. I was already going to go to Mother's room to take all the flowers, because that's one task they gave me. Then collect all the flowers and take them to Mother's room after the program, and Mother told me to go. So Mother also told her to go. And she said, Mother didn't say a single word to me. She says, what? Mother didn't say a single word to you? Didn't you hear Mother say, come to the room and see me after the program? No, I'm not crazy, Mother didn't say a single word. Oh no, I heard it all. Oh, you can trust me. Let's check the vibrations. Yes, this is amazing. Mother wants to see you, But Mother didn't say a word to me. And you were talking to her non-stop, You talked and talked and talked and talked forever, And you say, Mother was talking to me. She was talking to you. No, but while I was talking to her, I heard her talking to you as well. This is mad, So I said, you know what? You better come. It's because vibrations are saying so. She said, well, it's very rude to come without invitation. I can't, But I said, don't worry. It's my responsibility because I heard it. Mm-hmm. If I didn't hear properly, it's my fault. I take responsibility. But just in case. So after the program, I drove there, took the flowers. She came. As soon as that lady arrived, I said, oh, wonderful. I really wanted to talk to you, you see. Really needed to talk to you. Very important. I'm glad you came. What made you come, though? Oh, Louis said that he heard you say that. And I said, no, actually, I never said, but I had that desire to see you. Mm. So she said, this is a good sign. Now Sahaja yogis, can hear, sometimes they can hear my desires and they had the courage to act upon them. I said, this never happened to me. This is all part of the same miracle of the posters, On that occasion, that story is so long. Poor lady, she wanted to talk to Mother, she couldn't talk. But I heard Mother talking to her. Quite a long time, Mother was talking to her at the same time. And on that occasion, I heard that. So this was a very miraculous occasion for me, this event in Sheffield.
Wow.
I think I told you before I was going to tell you a story from another Sahaja yogi, which I found very interesting. This is also a miraculous story. Again, I was in a... This story is about Carol, basically, but also about me, because I caused a little bit of a problem by a mistake I made. Srimataji told Carol, you gave up 2 jobs recently, This is not the right way, It's very hard to find jobs, good jobs, and you gave them up, For what reason? She didn't like those jobs, she gave them up, And Mother said, this is not the way to go, Next time, try and work it out. If you find a solution, if there's a problem, don't just run away, Try something, So she got another job there in Cardiff, which was actually in Merthyr Tydfil, which is a place where there's lots of mining there. There used to be lots of mining. And it was a certain distance from Cardiff to Merthyr Tydfil. You had to take several trains and change. It was difficult to reach. And they gave a flexi time, starting at 10 a.m. So the connections were easy to start at 10 a.m. But then the council was in financial trouble. So with the unions, they decided now everybody's going to do an extra hour of work every day without pay, just to help out the council, to take the council out of this financial difficulty. So she was told, now your job starts at 8 a.m. instead of 10. We cannot do the trains at that hour. It's impossible, So we decided, she has to give up a 3rd job now in a row. Just like that. Mother just told her not to just get rid of a job. So now we have to work it out. So she did lots of meetings with the bosses and people above the bosses to try and get flexi time. But they wouldn't give her, because this was agreed with all the unions and the workers. We are going to work an extra hour. Instead of starting at 9, everybody starts at 8. Nobody gets paid for that hour.
We had a small baby as well.
Sorry?
We had a small baby as well.
Yes, so it was difficult.
You had a small baby then?
Yes, in those days, so it was not easy or convenient, So Carol asked me, can you find some legal solution for this? Well, I studied Portuguese law, not English law, but we had the revolution there in Portugal, so the laws are quite different, and the political atmosphere in Portugal was very different from England. I said, if this was in Portugal, you should have done a strike. You go on strike, you see. It's called a one-man strike. You can do that. And then in a month or 2, everybody in that council will join you in your strike. It's a very popular strike when you do a one-man strike. Everybody joins you. But this is a good cause, 3 months later, nobody joined her, you see. She was the only one. The union people were against her. They were telling her off, All the people are working an extra hour. And you, madam, you came here, behave like a duchess, you arrive at 10 o'clock every day. And you call it a strike, A one-man strike or a one-woman strike. We are all ashamed of this nonsense. They were not happy with her.
Oh my God.
And then suddenly, that's when the big disaster, but it worked, because she kept doing a job. Although she was still coming at 10, she wanted a solution. I found her a legal solution. You do a strike. And because it's a strike, they were waiting for her to change her mind, to feel ashamed and stop this nonsense. But she didn't stop. She carried on doing a strike. That was my advice. Otherwise, we have to give up another job. And Mother already said, don't give up. All I was asked was to find a solution. I think I found a good legal solution here. Although it was more correct to do in Portugal than in England. But still, it was a kind of a legal solution. And it worked. She didn't give up a job, But then, suddenly there was a big disaster, There was a big crime at work. Someone disturbed, went with some big bulldozers and dug up all the graves from the past to create extra place to bury new people. You see, so these graves are so old, nobody, it doesn't matter, they're very old graves. We can dig them up, and then you can use that area for digging the new people that die, But, the people got so angry, don't disturb the graves of the ancestors like this, And they wanted justice, they wanted the people responsible to go to court, because it's a crime. And there was a small problem. On the job description, it said that Carol was in charge of that graveyard. It was a fault officially. The boss told her never ever go there, because the boss did that behind the back. It was to save money. Instead of buying extra land, they just reused the old land. Of course, Carol didn't even know about this. She was told, she was ordered, don't ever go there, that's my responsibility. But this is verbal instruction. She had no proof. On the contract, it said she was in charge of that graveyard. So now she might go to jail. And they don't like her at all because of that strike. So I felt, now I have another legal problem to solve. She might go to jail for a crime now. A crime she didn't do, it's a responsibility. I ran out of ideas, I said, I have an idea, in fact. When you have a problem like this in Portugal, what do? This is plan A, you do a pilgrimage to the Virgin Mary. And you find a solution somehow. Now, here in England, the Virgin Mary, this is Sri Mataji, We do a pilgrimage to London. That's our plan A. We pray to Mother. She may give me some idea, who knows? Hopefully a good idea this time, or a better idea, So I came to London, stayed at the ashram, and great luck, Then plan B came. There was an invitation from Mother, came to my house, those who want, you can help out a little bit if you want, if you are free. I had nothing else to do. I went straight away. I arrived there, I saw Mother, lots of people came, not just me. The job for me was to transport some furniture out of Mother's house to a storage place, And Mother said, all right, so now you all must eat a pizza before starting work. Eat a nice pizza. She had lots of pizzas there for us. Take a little rest, and then you can start if you want, And then she said, I'm also going to take some rest now. That's it. I saw Mother, said hello, but I couldn't tell her this big problem of mine. So this was plan B, was to tell Mother, but plan B disappeared, Mother went to a room, I never had a chance to tell her that. And then, okay, there's only now plan C. I'm going to do a meditation. Everything I want to tell Mother, I will tell it to a photograph, So when the van was going with the van was being driven by a nice Sahaja, a very nice friend of mine, in fact, and I said, don't talk to me, please, because I'm going to do a special meditation now. I put my photo there on the dashboard of the car. I need to tell Mother something important, because I've just seen Mother, so now the sooner the better. I want to tell Mother, what it is, I did tell him the details. I need to do a serious meditation now, because I want to
keep on driving while I'm...
Just drive and leave me alone. Don't talk to me. I'm doing a very important meditation now. And I sat there very serious, telling the whole serious legal problem. My wife might go to jail, this, that, And he's driving me, and he says, are you okay? What's wrong with you, You are making me nervous, he said. Just don't interrupt me now, please. This is very important.
But you're saying out loud, he could hear.
No, in silence,
okay.
But, if this was serious, you could see this guy, is not his normal self. Usually I'm talking, and we are good friends, so... And then I am very serious, telling the whole thing, It touches me again. I say, Louis, come on, let me show you something nice. See that building there? Yes, I see that building, Please, what's the problem? There's nothing. I was driving, he says. I was driving Mother the other day. And when Mother saw that building, she started giving bandanas to that building. Oh, right. Why? Because that building has gone bankrupt, many times. It was a very important modern building. It's called Center Point. It's still there. The building is still there. Nowadays, the building became prosperous. But that building had gone bankrupt many times. Whoever bought that building went bankrupt. Another person tried to buy it, went bankrupt. And Mother was a bit, working on that. The building is empty. Brand new building, very nice, totally empty. Bankruptcy. And Mother was giving bandanas to that building to help the building, you see. So he says, I asked Mother, why is it you are giving a bandana to an empty building? And Mother said, because, this bankruptcy, is not auspicious. And the reason why this happened, Mother said, is that when they're doing the foundations, they disturbed some very ancient graves. These were very, very ancient. And usually they treat them with respect and take them to a museum or to storage, And what they did, they just... I don't know, God knows what they did. They didn't do it properly. No respect for those bones, And Mother said, actually, there was a a great realized soul also there amongst those ancient people. And this is very inauspicious, so if you disturb the bonds of very auspicious people, it's terrible, those bankruptcies, So when he tells me the story, I said, oh my goodness, Mother gave me the answer immediately. I'm telling the problem about the graves, there in Cardiff, what happened. And Mother already gave me the answer to the problem. Mm-hmm. What you have to do now is very simple. She has to resign and put it on record and protest. She's resigning in protest for the mishandling of the cemetery. Mm-hmm. So people know that it's not the fault, it's the boss, So resign, because if you stay there, you go bankrupt or you lose your career,
Yeah.
To me, this was the message of the dream. Not the dream of Mother's talk, the Mother's story, that story. If she stays there now, her career will be finished. She may go to jail or she has to get out of there, but get out of there with some grace. So resigning in protest for the mishandling of the grave, pass the hot potato to the boss now. And that's what she did, So the boss, was finished his career. Some of them paid big fines and everything. It was terrible. So she went to a next job. She had another job interview, and they asked her, "Why did you leave that job?" This was very embarrassing. She had left the last 3 jobs now in a row. You see, they're not very good for your CV. But now she had something to say. I left that job in protest for the mishandling of that graveyard. I said, "Oh my God, this is you! What a great professional integrity! They did know." Sorry?
They've seen it on the news.
They've seen it on the news. So you are that lady, who protested, The only one who protested. What a courage. You are a woman of integrity, professional integrity. We get the job. And they gave her the job. Although she lost the last 3 jobs because she gave up, Somehow the Mother is really like the Virgin Mary. She can give you a miracle. I couldn't talk to Mother. Mother gave me the answers through this little story about what she was doing there, giving bandan to
through the driver, that you didn't want to speak.
So when I hear stories about memories of Sahaja Yoga from other yogis, I like to hear those stories. You learn a lot from those stories of other yogis,
There's a lot of messages that Mataji give through other yogis, right?
Always, it's important to record them, You never know when these stories come handy, give you a big solution, like on that occasion.
Yeah. So I think, thank you so much.
Not at all. Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure to have you here to talk about William Blake, to talk about the miracles, and hopefully also it's clearing the left side of many yogis who are listening to this. And for sure we have to bring you back for more stories that I'm sure that you have, right?
Maybe a few more. Sometimes we forget there's so many, yes.
So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us. Jai Shri Mataji.
Bye-bye.
If you enjoyed this conversation, you can find more interviews in our book, Virata Conversation with Sahaja Yogis Volume 1. You can purchase the book on Amazon, and you can find the link in the description of this episode. Thank you.
Welcome.